Meals in a bowl are all the rage these days. You'll see them sweet, savory, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Today I'm going to show you 3 great make-at-home recipes that will allow you to assemble beautiful bowls that are as tasty as they are attractive. First up, I'm going to show you how to make a fantastic breakfast bowl. It's going to take humble oatmeal porridge to a whole new level. I've always loved oatmeal porridge and only learned recently that my mom, who made it for me so often, can't stand the stuff. Thanks, Mom. So we're going to start with getting the ingredients ready to make our porridge just a little bit more interesting. I'm going to start by grating some apple, and yes, we're going to use the peel too because that's extra fiber and nutrition. And we're going to put that into the oats and cook it up. So you probably just need about 2 tablespoons. That's about what I've got there. And as well as our quick cooking oats, not instant and not the larger grained ones, because this way you can cook it in about 1.5 minutes. It says a minute, but it's really 1.5 minutes. If you want to do steel cut, that's fine. You just need to adjust your cooking time. So we're going to put the oats in our pot. Then, for an extra hit of protein, I've got something special. These are quinoa flakes. They're very small. They look like little tiny baby rolled oats, and they add, like I said, a bunch of protein and also a neat nutty flavor to the breakfast bowl. Last but not least, because it's got all kinds of great nutritional properties, we're going to put in some cinnamon and then the apple that we grated. You can cook your oats in whatever liquid you prefer. You could do water, you can do regular milk as I'm doing today. You could use almond milk, coconut milk, really whatever you want. And we'll just pour the milk in. Now before we turn that on, because it's going to cook so quickly, I just want to talk a little bit about the other toppings that we have for our breakfast bowl. The whole point of a bowl is that you take a dish and instead of serving it on a plate, you put it in a bowl, but it's always really attractively arranged. So you want to have a variety of colors and textures and flavors in your bowl. When we cook our oats, they're going to go in the bottom, and then on top we're going to put sunflower seeds, slivered dried apricots, toasted coconut, vanilla yogurt, and some toasted pecans. And then we'll put on whatever topping we think we feel like today. So we'll start by getting our oats cooked. And we just want to bring them to the boil. The oats can stick to the pan, so it's important to stir them quite often. I'm going to boost the heat just to really get it fired up quickly here. You may have heard of overnight oats, and that usually involves soaking the oats, often in a mason jar, with whatever your liquid of choice is, preferably something that's counter-stable like an almond milk or coconut milk. You can do them in the fridge as well. They are going to be cold in the morning, so that's, to me, the one drawback for wintertime of overnight oats is that you don't get that nice hot thing to fill your tummy first thing in the day. Be brave and give it just even a little bit more heat, and then it'll be bubbling very, very quickly. I can smell the cinnamon and the apple as the oats are starting to cook. It smells so good. All right, it's boiling now and it's getting nice and thick. I think we're just about ready. The longer you cook it, the thicker it will get, so it's up to you to make it whatever texture you like. So we're going to put it in our bowl. It smells so good. I find when you start the day with a meal like this, it really lasts you all morning. That's one of the great advantages. And if you need to take your breakfast on the run, as many people do, you could easily pack this in a thermos. It won't be as attractively arranged as in a bowl, but it'll still have all the components, and each bite, when you dive in, you'll get something else that's tasty. All right, I think that's enough for our bowl today. Now we're going to start with our toppings. All right, and I didn't mention raspberries before. I always like to start with fruit because that's about my favorite part of this whole enterprise. Whatever you want to put in here in terms of fruit, just chop it up so it's bite-sized so that you can get a little bit in almost every bite. And like I said, the whole point is to try and arrange things in sort of a pretty pattern. Like maybe I'll do the coconut next and just make a line down the middle. If you look on Instagram or on Pinterest under breakfast bowls, you'll see some amazingly artistic creations. It's a wonder what people can do. I'm always so hungry, I just kind of want to get it made so I can dive in. And then we'll add our pecans. And I'll put the sunflower seeds up here. And then I always love to put the yogurt just in one corner. If you put it over top, then you don't get to see everything. And in terms of topping, if you want a little bit of sweetener, because this isn't too sweet, you've got a number of choices. Honey's a great option. Agave syrup is also super popular. I'm going to go old-fashioned and put a little maple syrup on this one. There, our breakfast bowl is all ready. We want to dig in while it's still nice and hot.
Coming up next, I'll share a recipe inspired by the classic style egg rolls my mom and I used to make when I was very young. You can cook the pork and seasonings up to 2 days ahead and refrigerate, then reheat in a pan and add the vegetables and sauce for a meal that's ready in just 5 minutes.
I've got a great tip to speed up your meal preparation. I pre-cook packages of meat with the seasonings I need for different dishes and freeze them. I've got ground pork with Asian spices here and ground beef and onions here. Pull these flat packs out of the freezer and your meal's halfway prepared. I haven't met too many people who don't love egg rolls. A long time ago, I don't know where my mom found a recipe, but we used to make them at home. So this dish, the egg roll bowl, is based on that filling, which is pretty much a classic Canadian Chinese interpretation of the egg roll. So we're going to start with some ground pork. And if you can't find that at your butcher shop, it's really easy to make yourself. Just take pork tenderloin or pork loin chops, cut them up into about 2-inch pieces and freeze them for about a half an hour, then pulse them in your food processor. Perfect ground pork. So we're going to add a little bit of cornstarch and a little bit of soy sauce to the pork. And that helps to give it a bit more flavor. Plus, as it's cooking, it means that the fat from the pork will get absorbed nicely back into the meat. Now we'll turn our burner on. And we're going to add some sesame oil. And a little bit of canola oil. And the pork goes into the pan. It doesn't take too long to fry it up, and if you're trying to do this ahead of time, you can easily prepare the pork or even the entire filling and then reheat it just before serving. So while the pork is cooking, we're going to get the rest of the ingredients for the filling ready. Carrots and cabbage are a real staple in egg rolls. It used to be that people would use bean sprouts, but they're less common now. So we're going to cut up some onion, just a little bit to put in there. And again, this is one of those free-form dishes. If there's something that you really like in Chinese cuisine, by all means, go ahead and add it in. Doesn't really matter how you cut the onions, just sort of a free-form chop. Now our pork is sizzling well. It's smells really good because of the soy sauce and the sesame oil. So we're layering the flavor in this dish, starting off right at the beginning, and then other flavors will just build from there. We'll let the pork cook just a little bit more before we start adding the vegetables in. Ginger's really common in a lot of Asian dishes, so we're going to grate up a little ginger. You don't even have to peel it if you're going to use a box grater like this. The peel doesn't go through the little holes. As you can see, it's just all left here on the outside. It's perfect, so much easier. I cook with ginger so often, I keep a bag of grated ginger in the freezer, and then I can just crack off a corner whenever I want some. I'm going to go ahead and add the ginger. I'm putting in quite a lot because I really like ginger. I'm going to add the onions. Stir them in. And garlic is another common component in lots of Asian food, especially Chinese, so in goes the garlic. Now for spices, we've got some delicious ginger and allspice, which might sound like an interesting combination. We think of those as being warm spices, often used in baking, but they're also commonly used in Chinese cuisine. And although we have the fresh ginger, adding powdered ginger just, again, is great for the layering of flavors. Okay. That's going to go on a little bit later, a little sugar, and then we have a little bit of pepper. We're not going to add any salt because we've got our soy sauce in there, and there's soy sauce in the dressing that goes on near the end. So the other vegetables that are going to go in are carrots and cabbage. And you just want to keep stirring occasionally while you're prepping the vegetables. It's looking pretty uniformly cooked now. And we want about a cup of cooked carrots for one bowl serving. So I think we're there. We'll add that in next. It smells just great with those spices in there. I love cabbage now, but I didn't when I was younger. I think I would have been surprised to know how many things that my mother snuck it into. I did know it was in egg rolls, and that was okay because I loved them so much. So we want about 2 cups of cabbage, and you want to cut it fairly finely so that it'll cook quickly. I like to use just a regular green cabbage. You can use Napa if you like. If red cabbage is all you can find, that would be fine too, although it would impart a little bit of its purpley hue to the dish. The rest of the cabbage we'll keep wrapped in the refrigerator for at least a week. It might get a little discolored on the cut edges, so you just trim those off when you want to go ahead and use the rest of it. So now I'm going to add the cabbage to the pan. And give that a stir. And now all we need is for it to cook down for about a minute to soften the cabbage, and we'll be ready to assemble our bowl. All right, our mixture is cooked, so now we're going to get ready to put it in the bowl. I was going to say plate it, but we're not really plating it, are we? We're bowling it. Green onions on top for a nice contrast of flavor and color. Not too many. Don't want to overwhelm the rest of the dish. There we go. All right, so I had these beautiful bowls that I bought in Chinatown, not expensive at all, and they're just so pretty for dishes like this. We've got some cooked basmati rice, so we're going to start by putting that in the bowl. I made this ahead of time, and then I've just warmed it in the microwave. And get ready with all our other components here. Now we're just going to spoon the egg roll topping over the rice. And it's pretty free form, as I've mentioned about this dish. One of those great ones with not a lot of rules. And you can make the portions any size you like. I think that's pretty good for a nice substantial portion. We'll put the green onions on. And of course, you're wondering, where's that crispy wrapper that we love so much about eating egg rolls, the deep fried shell? Instead of that, we've got crushed up crispy chow mein noodles to put on top. You could also use toasted sesame seeds if you wanted, or even strips of tortillas that have been baked up to crisp them up. And last but not least, a nice drizzle of plum sauce. You could use sweet chili sauce if you like. And there's our egg roll bowl fully assembled.
Poke hails from Hawaii and burst onto the Canadian food scene in 2016. My poke bowl is a delicious dish that's as healthy as it is beautiful. For an extra speedy meal, cook the rice, prepare the vegetables, and marinate the tuna ahead of time and refrigerate, then quickly assemble in just minutes when you're ready to eat.
Lots of people are a bit nervous when they hear about eating raw tuna, but once you taste it, I guarantee you'll be hooked. This tuna poke bowl is a lot of fun to assemble, and like many bowls, would be a great activity at a party. So we're going to start by preparing the rice, which we cooked a little bit before, and we use sushi rice for this. It's called calrose or Japanese short grain rice. Sometimes you'll see it described as sticky rice, and it takes a little bit longer to cook than something like a basmati rice, for example. Now you want to make it nice and flavorful. There's sort of a nice sweet and sour tang to sushi rice. So we've got rice vinegar, and we're going to add some sugar. Give it a little shake. And ideally, you add this to the rice when it's still hot, so it really soaks in. There we go. And we'll just give that a little bit of a stir. And you don't want the rice to be hot in this dish because you want the tuna to stay cold and at a safe temperature. So it's great to make the rice ahead of time. So we'll just leave that there. So now we're going to prepare the ingredients for our tuna itself. This is a sweet onion, and we're just going to mince up a little bit of it. Like a lot of Asian or Polynesian dishes, it's about the layering of the flavors again. Give myself a little room for my knife. Just mince it up as small as you can make it. You want about a tablespoon of minced onion. That looks pretty good. So we're going to put that in this jar along with some soy sauce. And the tuna doesn't need long to marinate, ideally 10 minutes, but you can do it up to 12 hours ahead of time and just put it in the fridge. We're also going to add some minced ginger. We're going to add some sriracha. You could use sambal olik, just any kind of hot sauce that you prefer, and use as much as you like. I'm going to put in about a half a teaspoon, so it'll have a kick but not be overwhelmingly hot. I'm going to add a little bit of water as well. And last but not least, some sesame oil. And once again, you'll see I'm using my little jar to shake up the dressing. It's just the easiest way to do it, and it really saves on a lot of mess. All right, now that that's ready, I'm just going to put the onion aside, and we'll use this same board for the tuna. When you're working with raw fish, you want to be careful. Make sure you keep it refrigerated and work with it promptly, and don't use the board that you're cutting it on for anything else until you've washed it, of course. So this is yellowfin tuna. You'll sometimes see ahi tuna. Whatever good quality fresh tuna you can find is great, or raw tuna, I should say. Most often you'll find it having been previously frozen, so be aware that you can't freeze it again, and you'll need to work with it within a day or two of purchasing it. So we're going to cut it in just little small cubes. Tuna's very, very lean and very tender, so it's really easy to work with. And it should have a good, nice pink color. And as with all fish, it shouldn't have a fishy smell if it's still fresh. If it smells strong, chances are it maybe is past its prime. It's a good idea to find out what the most reputable fishmongers in your area are, and I like to make sure I go there so I never have to worry about the quality of the fish that I'm serving, especially if it's raw. So now we're going to put our marinade on top. There we go. And we'll give that a little stir. And then we'll just set it aside for a few moments while we get everything else ready. Give my knife a good cleaning here. This board is wobbly, so I've got a cloth under it so it won't run away on me. So you want to have an array of colorful toppings. We're going to use some grated carrot, some sesame seeds, English cucumber, I love these mini ones, sugar snap peas, and avocado. With the sugar snap peas, you want to make sure that you take the strings off them. You just kind of put your thumb through one end and then pull. The strings can be kind of tough and coarse, so it's nice to not have to wrestle with them. We're going to just simply cut those into bite-sized pieces. The longer ones I'll cut into 3s, and the shorter ones into just 2 pieces. Those are all set to go. With the English cucumber, you can cut it any way you like. Some people like to do little julienne strips, which are very pretty, but they take a lot longer. So today we're just going to cut them in little half moons. And when we go to build the bowl, it's going to be a lot like our breakfast bowl, where we just try and put the toppings on in a bit of a pleasing pattern. You want an avocado that's ripe but not too mushy, otherwise it's going to be really hard to slice. And I like to do the slices on the lengthwise because then they fan out in a really pretty way in the bowl. And once again, a little green onion on top for color and flavor. There we go. Get all these bits out of the way. All right, so now it's time to assemble our bowl. And we'll start with the rice. And just give it a good stir so you can kind of break up any clumps that are in there. And as with the egg roll bowl and the oatmeal bowl, you just decide what size of serving you want to make. We're going to start by putting the tuna on, and it's okay to spoon a little bit of the marinade as well because it's so flavorful. I'm going to kind of put it in a line down the middle. Depending on the size of the bowl, you'll want to count on usually about 2 ounces of tuna per person. Then we'll add some of our snap peas in one corner. And some carrot beside it. Do the cucumbers here. And again, add in whatever vegetables tickle your fancy. You could use zucchini, watermelon radish, all kinds of things. No strong rules on this dish. And then fan out your avocado. We're going to sprinkle a few sesame seeds that are stuck to the dish. I guess we're going to spoon a few sesame seeds. These are toasted, which just makes them a tiny bit more flavorful. And then one more drizzle of the marinade over the tuna so that it helps to put a little bit more flavor into the rice. And there we go. Our poke bowl is complete. One bowl meals like this are so much fun. I hope that you'll consider looking at some of your recipes and adapting them to this format. In the meantime, perhaps you'll want to try my egg roll bowl, my tuna poke bowl, or my delicious oatmeal breakfast bowl.